All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to the Turning Point. Another episode. Today is just gonna be me and Vandel. Unfortunately, Versan and David couldn't join today, but they will be back here on the next episode. I was having some private conversations with Vandel before we start. That's why we get around 15 minutes late. Yeah, I saw someone in the comments saying, but trust me, that was tied to what we're going to be talking on today's episode. So we were just preparing some topics. How are you doing today, Vandel?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Ido, as always, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We're going to get into some interesting details that have been
Yeah,
around
I
for a
had
while.
deep, from our conversation, I had some deep realizations, and I want to be talking about that in a second. But I think we should start with the SEC lawsuit and the last developments from the case. Actually, it's pretty much concluded unless the SEC decides to appeal. I have to confess, before this decision, I was not following the SEC lawsuit anymore, since XRP was declared not being a security by Judge Torres. I think that was the most relevant development from the SEC lawsuit, and from there, I was not paying so much attention until last week, when I didn't have a choice but to actually check on what was going on. We had the decision that Ripple was going to receive a fine. Can you remind me how much was the fine now? It just went through my memory, but if
Yeah,
someone remembers,
I think it was $120 million, as I recall.
yeah, 120
Something.
million, and that's actually 96% lower than what the SEC
Yep.
originally intended. So we can call it a massive victory for Ripple, and that was so expected. Anyways, how do you see that, Vandel, and what are your expectations about the SEC lawsuit and also this quite short spike on XRP price that was produced just in the following hours from the decision? We had a 20% increase, and then it retraced our already. We are quite back to the same scenario as previously.
Yeah, so given all the circumstances taking place and considering the timeline for how long the SEC lawsuit has been going for. First, they go after XRP, then it's a civil lawsuit for the executives, and who knows, maybe they have something up their sleeve next. Um, the point is, the fundamentals have never changed. We constantly see one victory after the other, whether it's in a legal fashion or whether it's just an expansion of more development on the XRP ledger, more development in the relationships with central banks, financial institutions. If you zoom out, what you can see is they're expanding their chessboard. So the fundamentals have not changed. And it's funny because my conclusion remains the same from day one when I discovered that the lawsuit was set up by Jay Clayton from an internal corruption perspective with some other bad actors. Um, my conclusion is this is all part of the plan. There is a timeline that they're going by. There's heavy suppression of the price, heavy manipulation. Therefore, that's why you saw a spike on the day of the victory or slightly before it. And then what happens? It came right back down. Um, this is pure manipulation. This is insanity. Like, it's so obvious at this point. But in addition to that, in 2022, I made a video and I said, look, guys, the SEC lawsuit, if you look at everything that took place, the timeframes, the people involved, the motives, the connections they had to other people with interest, it's so clear and obvious. And I said, they're going to win the lawsuit. It will be deemed not a security. This is just going to pass. And then there's going to be something next that shows up down the road. And that's exactly what happened. So there was a victory now. And I just feel like at the end of the day, it's interesting to talk about, it's entertaining to talk about, but nothing's changing. The outcome has been pre-planned long ago, and people need to understand this. Ripple has been around the block since 2012. 2013 and massively growing and have deep connections to, we have to say it, okay, to some intelligence agencies, deep connections to the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, big connections to Peter Thiel's founder fund. And that's it. This is part of a plan. They've been chosen and selected for a very specific purpose within the new financial system. So I think it's just a victory. And if you own a piece of it, if you own a piece of the network, the asset, you're going to thank yourself one day in the future.
Great points, Wendell. Also want to send special wishes here to Versan. Hope you're going to be better. He's watching us, so he just did a comment. So hopefully next week he'll be back. We had some Moscow issues, yeah. Anyways, well, from day one, when they dropped the SEC lawsuit against Ripple, that's very funny. I can prove that with transactions. When they dropped the SEC lawsuit against Ripple, I bought my largest bag of XRP. So I was already aware that XRP was meant to be something within the financial system. But I didn't know XRP was set to be the foundation of the new financial system. When they dropped the SEC lawsuit against Ripple, that's the day I said, wait a minute, something's happening. I mean, why they did the lawsuit specifically about XRP? Well, now we know XRP is already not declared a security, is the only digital asset with regulatory clarity. Therefore, they can use XRP for financial use case, as Ripple always intended to be. XRP is meant for financial use case, not for retail. A lot of people hate me for saying that. Anyways, when they dropped the SEC lawsuit, if you guys remember, the price has dropped as low as 16 cents. I bought my largest XRP bag in the history at the price of 16.4 cents. I still have the transactions, and that was a massive win for me. But I'm not saying this to actually talk about my purchases, but actually to prove a point, which is once you understand that the SEC came specifically after Ripple, then you start to understand that this might be the greatest political theater of the all times in crypto, because as you said, it's called Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, right? Now they call it Bitcoin Opportunity Corp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the company is a venture capital firm, Bitcoin Opportunity Fund. In 2015, they changed it to the Bitcoin Opportunity Corp.
Yeah, we're just getting a bit deeper on the connections of Ripple, although I will not mention names of private individuals here for the sake of their privacy, but we were discussing this before, that there is clearly an agenda. We have large influential figures that are talking trash about XRP on social media, and we can track these individuals as angel investors of Ripple. How suspicious is that, right? So you have someone that has a very large audience that is purposely on social media telling people to actually stay away from XRP, calling it like centralized and all of these things that they use to hate on XRP, which we know is not true. And then you go to the board of directors of institutions like the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, and then you find out that this actually was investing millions of dollars as an angel investor of Ripple. So you start to understand there is an agenda, and people are purposely promoting Bitcoin and actually trashing XRP. I do believe that is related to, they don't want retail to own substantial percentages of XRP. And a great example of that is that when they dropped the SEC lawsuit, I started to track down the wallets. And you know who was actually selling? Retail investors, because they got scared from the SEC. And who was actually accumulating more? Well, the large wallets. So the wallets that were in the top 1%, actually the top 0.1%, which is wallets that hold only more than like millions, 10 million XRPs and stuff like that. These were the ones that were actually buying every single XRP that they could. And since this occasion, XRP has been highly manipulated in several occasions. It has been the digital asset more manipulated that I ever seen. And I am in crypto since 2017. We had massive episodes when you think now it's taking off and then it just dumps immediately. And I think every time they are doing this, they are putting sell pressure on retail investors and they are actually setting their buy orders. Well, they did the same thing with Bitcoin, but I think on XRP it's even more relevant. As I said, even though XRP has a large supply, and we were talking about this before, the XRP that's in circulation is quite not that many if you understand that you have 50% locked in escrow, and also the fact that from my understanding XRPs are going to be locked in Nostro Vostro accounts. So every single major central bank in the world is obligated to hold a certain amounts of XRP. So that also makes the theory that every XRP can used over and over again, therefore there will be no price appreciation. That just destroys this entire theory. And I want to pass the word for you, Vandel. What do you think about these connections of Ripple with government agencies? Don't you think that's very suspicious?
Yeah, well, since day one, even the managing director of Ripple at the time stated at a conference that the XRP ledger was not designed, it was designed for institutions. So this has been spoken by executives of Ripple. And if you just look at what they're doing, forget what they're saying, look at what they're doing. They're trying to work with central banks and financial institutions, which means they have a solution to serve the financial institutions. And if you understand the history of financial institutions, particularly central banks and banking, you would know that they are not looking out for your best interest. Their best interest that comes to mind is maintaining the control and power they have and ensuring a very strong balance of risk and reward. So they want to minimize risk. They want to enhance earnings and profit while still maintaining the power and control that they have within the current financial system. And they also know the system is evolving. So is technology and innovation, and so are the people. So the connection to the central banks, the governments, and intelligence agencies is pretty obvious if you look at the ties they have to different institutions, who they're working with, and particularly where their funding came from and the money. So you can always follow the money to see how the dominoes connect to one another. So yes, Ripple is here to serve central banks, okay? They're not here to serve you, so people need to understand this. Throughout history, there's been countless technologies and inventions that have been created specifically for corporations, okay? Or that only organizations and corporations use today. However, though, they did start in the hands of your average person, in the hands of citizens. That's not because it was designed for citizens. There's many reasons why they could do that, but one of them is just to get some volume and activity going on and potentially develop a social proof and use case. But ultimately, they're here for the central banks and the financial institutions. They're not here for you. So get that out of your head. Please, people, do not be deceived and misled. However, though, this is still an opportunity because this is the first time in history where an average person, wherever you guys are in the world, just an average retail investor, this is the first time in history where you can actually have an edge over the financial institutions. You don't have to be an accredited investor to purchase some of these assets. It's never been like that in history. So that's the opportunity right there, that you can own some of these technologies and digital assets. And that's where the opportunity is, holding and owning them. You know, even if they're not here to serve you, if you own it and hold on to it in the long run, you will thank yourself at some point in the future, because the value still remains. The value is significantly higher the fact that they're here for the financial institutions and not for the people. Because at the end of the day, they have the power, okay? And they control the governments, they control the politicians, so don't be confused right there. That's how I see it. And they have deep ties to intelligence agencies, which we can talk about as well.
Yeah, I'll be providing some inputs about the origins of Ripple. And before I want to address a comment here, which is also related to what we are talking about. So someone asked, what about XRP clawback? Is that concerning? Well, first I want to address that is that there is no clawback over XRPs, but there is clawback on certain assets on the XRP ledger. And why is that? Why that has been implemented? Well, that's simple because you need clawback for stablecoins, so that financial institutions can actually adopt it in the CBDCs most likely. So you do need to have the clawback function. Therefore, that's actually something positive for the investors, in my opinion, because you are uh, owning XRP, knowing that there's no clawback over the XRPs that you actually own, but there is clawback on stablecoins, which serves the primary purpose of the XRP ledger, which is financial use case. We always spoke about that. And second is about the origins of Ripple, and then I want you to complement Vandal on what you said before about the governments and private companies, something that we spoke privately. But guys, understand, I have made several threads. If you follow me on X, many of you probably know that I put infinite efforts on finding the origins of Ripple, and I have tied that with Ryan Fugger. But I want to not go so deep into Ryan Fugger because that goes back centuries ago. But we can go back definitely to the 90s. And if you go see the trademarks for Ripple and you go to the year of 1991, you will find that there was a company which was called Ripple Communications, and you can follow these trademarks which has been transferred over and over again because then they renamed it. They changed the name from Ripple Communications, and around 2012, if I'm not mistaken, it became OpenCoin, and then it became Newcoin, and then it actually became Ripple, and then Ripple Labs Inc. as we know today. So there has been an attempt to hide these connections from 1992. But the most interesting is that when you look to Ripple Communications, which we're talking here way before even the original concept of Bitcoin, but interestingly enough, not that far from a paper by David Schwartz, the cryptography of electronic cash. I think that's how it was called, from David Schwartz, which pretty much has the principles for distributed ledger technology. However, when you look to Ripple Communications, you see that it's the same board members that were on the INSA in the same period of time frame. So we're talking here about a government agency, and you can really put a lot of connections between Ripple and the INSA if you understand that Ripple Communications is the same Ripple that we know today. Even though they're gonna tell you that the name came from, I think it's called the Grateful Dead song, which they have. It's some artists that have this song which is called Ripple, and the official version is going to tell you that the name came from there, but actually the name came from this company from 1992. Now I want you, Vandal, to expand on why we are making these connections and why is that relevant when you understand the relationship between governments and private companies.
Yeah. I'm just going to mention something. It kind of kicks off where on what Ito was mentioning, and then I'll go more in depth. So, as we know, OpenCoin rebranded to Ripple Lab in 2013. So Ripple used to be OpenCoin. They changed to Ripple Labs in 2013, and then they renamed to Ripple in 2015. But here's what's interesting. So this is something Edo brought up earlier, but I'll just go more in depth and then carry on. So Ripple Coin closed 5 rounds of funding in the early stages. And one of them was from the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund. It's a venture capital firm, and they invested in Ripple. The Bitcoin Opportunity Fund invested in Ripple in 2013. And then that same company changed their name to the Bitcoin Opportunity Corp and invested in Ripple again in 2015. Now, if you go on their website, the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, it's still called the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund. This is what's really interesting. They have a team section, a very impeccable track record on all these individuals on their team. Very smart guys. As a matter of fact, one of them has been on our show and spoke with Versan and I one time. Now, strangely, they never discuss Ripple or XRP, even though I think it's extremely obvious at this point that XRP is the most superior financial instrument for liquidity and moving value, aside from XLM. And my question is, do they really believe that Bitcoin is the answer to the problems? Or do they really believe that financial institutions cannot control Bitcoin? Do they really think it's going to only increase in value and be decentralized? It's clearly not happening. That's why BlackRock is trying to buy up all the Bitcoin. When they buy it all up, they're centralizing it even more. That's how you control it, okay? It's obvious, and that's what they're doing. But interestingly, these people that are on the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, all they talk about is Bitcoin, okay? And it's just very strange, and it intrigues me because, they don't say anything about Ripple or XRP. And if they ever do, it's a lot of negative sentiment, which is strange. And, saying nothing about something says a lot, okay? They're not mentioning the elephant in the room. Now, the connections to the governments and the intelligence agencies, this is what we're going to get into. So, about the private companies and intelligence agencies, a lot of people don't know this, but I'll break it down for you. When an intelligence agency or a government entity wants to achieve an agenda or achieve a goal within the public sector, what the intelligence agency or the government entity will do is they will fund or indirectly set up a private company. And the reason for this is very strategical. It's because depending on the nature of the business, what they're doing, if it's about controlling data, information, it's a financial tech company. If they were a government entity doing that, they would receive a lot of public scrutiny and a lot of negative, harsh feedback from the public and from the people in the news. And it would be actually very negative, and they could have some serious challenges because they're a government entity and nobody wants to give that much more control to a government. So what they do is they go through loopholes, and it's very strategic again, and it's legal. They just fund and they set up private companies. They get executives, they get the best people, the best puppets to run the show and achieve the vision and the goals set forth. And that private company is actually connected, or really a CIA or intelligence agency company, but it's a private company. So that private company can get away with more things, and people wouldn't attack it. They wouldn't receive that much public scrutiny. And the reason is because they're a private company. Oh, they could do whatever they want. They can be a data collection company. They can monitor this and that. They could be working on a new, financial system or a bridge currency or whatever it is. And it's a private company, so they can do whatever, and people really can't say anything. So that's why intelligence agencies have a history of being very connected to private companies and some public ones. And that includes Google, okay? And they're one of the biggest controllers of information in the world that you get. The public record, they were funded by the Central Intelligence Agency. There's more to it in connection to Ripple as well, which is very interesting. I know Ido brought up a little bit of that earlier, but it's extremely obvious. And why they set up private companies to achieve certain goals is for that exact reason, so that they could fly under the radar, okay? If it's a government entity and doing that, they're going to get attacked by the public. But a private company can do whatever they want. So it's very strategical.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also tied. Well, first, I sent you in the private chat, because we have a private chat here, a link. I'm not sure if you are capable of sharing the screen, and now if you can click on that, because
Yep.
unfortunately, for some reason, I'm never able to share it. But if you are capable, then we can have a look at that together. It's about Ripple Communications, and it's a very short article that I wrote. Sorry, post, not
Okay.
article. But I find very interesting that usually governments are also behind the telecommunications companies in the country.
Yep.
So you have the false idea that they are actually private companies and that there is competition, when in reality they are all government owned, created
Exactly.
by intelligence services. And how interesting is that Ripple Communications was also under the false guise of being a telecommunications company. If you manage to open the link I share you, and we can show for them in the screen here. However,
Can you see it?
we live in this. Yeah, perfect. Okay, it's on the stage now. Just a second. Okay, it's loading. Let's see if it will work. I don't know why I always have a bad time. Okay, yeah, perfect. So I will. You want to read that, or can I go ahead? I think you are better.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Can
So
you read
Ryan
it?
Fugger. Yeah, I can. Yeah. So Ryan Fugger affirms he has chosen the name Ripple based on a Grateful Dead song. So this thread is actually revealing that is not how they are telling us. Not only Ryan Fugger, but many of Ripple employees. Not attacking them. I'm just saying that I have evidences that are pointing otherwise. So Ripple Communications has been incorporated in the 21 of March 1991, and the trademark for Ripple Communications belongs to Ripple Labs. So basically, the Ripple that we know today used also owns the trademark for Ripple Communications and previously OpenCoin. So Ryan Fugger is the registrant for RipplePay.com, which happens to be a Ripple Communications company. So RipplePay belongs to Ripple Communications, which is also founded by Ryan Fugger. And then we have and notice how they actually distanced Ryan Fugger from Ripple. So you don't hear about him anymore, even though he's the founder. He quite disappeared. And now we have the INSA that was recognized in 2005 by a group of prominent contracting executives to serve as a bridge between the industry and the leaders of national intelligence. So in the same year that the INSA was recognized, Ripple.com, RipplePay, and OpenCoin.com, they were all born under the same IP address. Some of these were the first wallets for XRP were also under the same domains. And then we have Karen Nussel, I think that's how it's pronounced. You guys have to forgive my accent sometimes, guy. I am still Italian inside. Karen worked for Ripple Communications, and you can meet her again simultaneously at the INSA, and it's even the email there. So Ripple owns 13 federatedly registered trademarks, including Ripple Labs, Ripple Trade, and Ripple Communications, which by now you should understand that is highly connected to the US intelligence organizations with Ryan Fugger involved. And if you
Yes.
can click on the and you can just quickly show to the audience, I think that's one of the most mind-blowing threads that I wrote on X, quite a long time ago. And there you can follow all the history of Ripple Communications until it actually became the Ripple that we know today. There's the whole evolution there,
Yeah.
You have. You can see the website, which on red over there you see Ripple Communications Company, and who is the registrant? Ryan Fugger 1992. That's mind blowing, guys.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, look, I know people are not gonna want to hear this, but at the end of the day, this is what we do. We spend our time talking to people all over the world, doing research and analysis, and really connecting the dots with people in our network and outside our network, just so we could bring people the truth. Okay, and we share what we share, and hopefully, it gives you a unique perspective for you to look at things differently um, and form your own judgment. But the conclusion is Ripple is it's funded by an intelligence agency, okay, for a bigger purpose. Um, However, don't let that mislead you thinking that, oh, now I don't need to own XRP. No. If you own your XRP, we still believe it's going to be significantly high valued in the future and appreciate over time. Um, it's going to happen, most likely. But this is just a little of the history behind Ripple, because there's this huge misconception, Ido. People think Ripple was created for the people. You know, I mean, it's such a joke. It's so obvious when you do deep research and due diligence, like you did, Ido, here, connecting the dots. It's so obvious. This is how big organizations work. They're a lot of them are funded by intelligence agencies, and they're connected directly to them, and they're set up through private companies so that you cannot make the connection. Okay, they don't want it to be very obvious, so they try to create these barriers. Can you hear me?
100% correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%
this is how they
correct.
operate.
Absolutely. And that just show us that in reality, this entire SEC lawsuit is just like smoke and mirrors. I mean,
Yes, exactly.
it's
It
almost
is.
as if, in other words, that would be the same as if the government was filing a lawsuit against the government, right? Because at the end of the day, the SEC is a government agency. I just put out this great evidence that Ripple is connected to the Secret Service intelligence agencies. So you just think for yourself, is it really a real lawsuit, or this is just something that is opening the windows for XRP to work with financial institutions? And that's what we
Yeah.
have right now.
Yeah. And
Ethereum
for
is not. Ethereum doesn't have regulatory clarity. Solana doesn't have regulatory clarity. Not even Bitcoin has regulatory clarity. Cardano
well,
doesn't. But guess which one is the only digital asset fully regulated? Well, that's XRP, and I don't think that's a coincidence.
oh no, not at all. I mean, for God's sakes, there's 20,000 plus digital assets and cryptocurrencies, and yeah, they chose to go after the one that is the most superior for disrupting the financial system and how value moves, with ties to the intelligence agencies that are doing everything by the books, that have direct connections to the NSA, and it's such a joke. It's such a joke. That's why, honestly, I don't talk about the case that much. And when I talk about it, I'm like, all right, I've seen this story before. They did this with Google. They did this with some other technology companies. For those who don't know, Peter Thiel, good friends with Elon Musk, had the Founders Fund, and Ido and I were talking about this earlier. This is public information. Peter Thiel's one of the biggest billionaires out there, tech guys. His founder fund was one of the early investors in Ripple. Okay. And yeah, Peter Thiel is the co-founder of Palantir, by the way. Palantir is disrupting the data world. Okay. And they're working with the CIA. That's public information. And Palantir, just so you guys know, by the way, just so you know, it's funded by the intelligence agencies, set up as a private company, funded by the CIA and some other agencies. And publicly, they work closely with the CIA, but they're really an intelligence agency fronting, masking itself as a private company. Yes, and direct ties to Peter Thiel, to the Founder Fund. Again, Peter Thiel is the co-founder of Palantir, and he funded through the Founders Fund Ripple. He helped fund Ripple, and direct ties to Elon Musk. And I just got to read this here real quick, but it's funny because Elon Musk has always been an advocate for tech and innovation, correct? And the Peter Thiel's Founder Fund invested in Ripple actually to build a better Bitcoin. That's the phrase they used a lot. Build a better Bitcoin. And in 1999, Elon founded X.com, an American online bank that changed its name to PayPal later on. So all you got to do is connect the dots. Some big ties here to the intelligence agencies, the government, and they have to use a private company as a front to get under the radar to reach their goals, okay? They can't do it as a government entity. People will not allow it.
By the way, you mentioned Elon Musk. We talk a lot about XRP, but also a lot of connections with XLM. We can't ignore XLM. So we have Jed, which was part of the founders agreement for Ripple, together with Arthur Brito and Ryan Fugger. So Jed has left from Ripple, who went on to found Stellar XLM, and then you have one of his company. I think it's called Vast, right? The company that he had an agreement. So Jed has
Vast
a company.
Ventures.
Yes, Vast Ventures that made a partnership with SpaceX from Elon Musk. And then you have Elon Musk who comes live and says that he intends to make X like some sort of a central bank or a payment platform. And he's implementing these things live. So which currency do you think they're going to be using? You think it's going to be Bitcoin? I don't think so. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people, especially in the last weeks, because now the SEC lawsuit was over. We had a 20% spike on XRP price. And I see a lot of people losing their patience. And I think that's their goal. I want you guys to understand. Price appreciation for XRP is going to happen when adoption comes in. That's why the infrastructure is being implemented on the background. And you see that they are not talking about this on the news, but if you go research documents from every single organization that is dictating the world, the directions of the world, such as World Economic Forum, Bank of International Settlements, International Monetary Fund, you see that they are calling XRP a stablecoin. You see that they are very often mentioning XRP, XLM, and they actually criticizing Bitcoin. So you have these key institutions, which I mentioned previously, and guess which coins they are talking about? Well, it's always the XRPs, the XLMs, the XDCs, the blockchains that have the capability for real-world asset tokenization, trillion-dollar industries such as cross-border payments. We can't ignore that. And that's exactly why I do believe that holding XRP, and I say this many times, it's not holding a digital asset like the average asset out there. It's like literally you own a piece of infrastructure. It's like in the future, what I do see is that we're going to get rich by association. You're actually associating yourself with the highest institutions, and that's the key. Now, if you're going to lose your patience, you're actually going to be extremely excited because we have a 20-cent spike on price. I think that's a fundamental mistake because you are acting emotionally and you're going to be part of the 95% that's going to be priced out, because whenever people are not used for XRP trading at $1, at $1.50, $2, especially the ones that are new to the ecosystem. And whenever we're going to have price appreciation, these people are going to sell out because they're going to be taking profits, and they're going to take profits in stable coins, which are not very stable, like USDT, for instance. And I think you have to focus on the long term. Don't think on the 20% increase, but give some time, wait for the whole infrastructure to roll out. CBDCs are also on the horizon, and XRP is a fundamental piece for CBDCs. And I'm not gonna say in 5 years, even before, maybe 3 years, maybe 2 years, but whenever the infrastructure is rolling out for CBDCs, we're gonna have huge price appreciation for XRP. That's how I see. What about
Yeah,
you?
I agree with you. I do. I think this has been in the working for over a decade now, a very long time. And remember, the oligarchs, the ones that rule and run the way society functions through monetary and fiscal policies, the ones who control the central banks, the big families, the tech oligarchs, the billionaires like Peter Thiel and many other, they have very long-term visions, okay, and they they're very patient. They have long-term visions, and a lot of the plans they have um, are long-term, and they're playing out now, and they've been created long ago. Um, so I think with digital assets, again, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And again, the SEC lawsuit, it's all bullshit in my opinion. It's all a big show. It just gives them more time to accumulate, to onboard more financial institutions before they flip the switch. And while that's taking place, they have to strike fear in the people because, sure, some people get wealthy during transitions like this, but they can't let the whole world do that. Okay. So they have to manipulate the price. They understand human behavior and psychology, and they know that when they scare the shit out of people with FUD, lawsuits, SEC, all these false flag scare tactics, they know that 90% of people are going to sell their digital assets, not hold on to them because of fear. And it's important to know the history of technological innovation and how government entities like the SEC government, how they responded to disrupting innovation. For example, the SEC went after many companies. They went after Uber. They went after Tesla. They went after several others, Google and Amazon at one point. And at the end of the day, what happened to those companies? They disrupted different sectors of the world, and now they're the most expensive stocks, some of them, and companies that exist today. The biggest balance sheets, the most powerful companies that control and monopolize certain sectors of the world within the economy. And they were all sued by the SEC. And then it's funny because Ripple gets sued. Out of 20,000 cryptocurrencies and companies, Ripple gets sued. With considering all their connections to intelligence agencies, government, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. Yeah, it's just part of the show. It's just a phase in the process, and you shouldn't be concerned about it as long as the fundamentals have not changed. And that's what I keep going back to.
Well said, Vandel, and I love what you said. Amongst 20,000 other digital assets out there, they come for XRP. I mean, for after Ripple. And the irony is that Ripple has been working fully legal with virtually every single central bank in the world. I mean, you can find connections with every single one of them, with exceptions from North Korea, because I think they don't even have a central bank. They operate differently. But if they had one, I am sure they would be adopting the Ripple's technology as well. But it's very interesting that XRP was also always in the top 10, and they come specifically after XRP. I mean, there must be a reason. And
Yeah.
I said this in the beginning of this live streaming that in this day is when something clicked inside me, and that's when I bought my largest XRP bag. Because it's really, if they're coming after Ripple, that must mean something. And I want to address one quick comment here because someone say it's also important to take profits. Well, I agree. And I want to quickly disclose my strategy here. So I'm not saying
Sure.
for people don't take any profits. What I am saying is that I think I truly believe that I do this myself. I have two different XRP bags. So I have my long-term bag, which I keep in a cold wallet. And this I have very clear to me. I will not sell this. I will not touch this XRPs. I'm gonna hold it. I don't care. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't really care. I will see how it goes and I will leave in this cold wallet. I will not touch it under any circumstances. Now, I do have a bag that I can cash out before. So that's the bag that I leave in exchanges. And that's a small fraction of my original holdings, which if there is a crash on the exchanges, if everything goes to zero, let's say Uphold or Binance or Coinbase, let's say for some reason they bankrupt, you might think that's impossible, right? But look for past occasions in crypto. Also was impossible. Luna to go from 100 to zero in a matter of literally hours, right? The
Mhm.
same for the stablecoin that has crashed, UST. And myself, I already suffered in the past with exchange called Cryptopia.com. Unfortunately, I was much more naive back on the time, and I didn't have custody over my digital assets, and I ended up losing Dogecoins that I bought under one Satoshi that was worth a lot of money. And well, I was very naive. That's why today I have a strategy, and I always telling people, have your long-term XRP bag in an offline wallet, in a cold wallet. And yes, you can have your cash out bag in an exchange. There's nothing wrong to take some profits as well. I'm just saying that you should have one for the long term. You agree with that, Vandal?
Yeah, 100%. I think it would be a bit naive not to be accumulating a portion to sell for profit, because um, it's huge opportunity for short term and long term as well. And that's the same thing I do. Within my portfolio, specifically my digital asset crypto portfolio, I have a portion that I'm going to be exiting with near or in the middle or at the end, the peak of the bull cycle, which will likely um, take place between late 2024 to the end of 2025 or to early mid 2025. I'm monitoring it based on various indicators and the economy, the financial, um, the way um, the financial status of the world and how the economy is doing. I'm using many different indicators, but I'm doing the same thing you are. I have a portion for taking profits and a portion for long term that I keep in hardware wallet, cold storage, in a Faraday bag with passwords written on metal plates that are indestructible. And those Faraday bags are in safes, multiple backups, and that's long term. I'm not touching that anytime soon. Um, but I think it's important for anybody involved in this space to take advantage of the opportunity of the market cycles. There's a lot of wealth and uh, gains that can be made if you play your cards right and um, be uh, be clever with the decisions you're making. I think uh, it's obvious, since 2013, cryptocurrencies have been the best performing risk adjusted reward asset class out there. And it's very clear that every 4 years, there's a few things that happen. We have a bull run, we have a debt refinance cycle, which happens every 4 years on average. And then we have liquidity, which makes its way into the markets and assets go up. So if we know that, then why not take advantage and have a portion for long term? And I warn people this. If you think and you're planning on holding 100% of your crypto and digital assets through this peak, this cycle, I caution you to be very careful and strategic with that decision. The reason is because if you think everything's going to be okay after this cycle, then you're definitely wrong. Because based on my analysis with my brother and looking at all the economic indicators we have access to and speaking to people all over the world, we're headed for a Great Depression, a 2.0 Great Depression. Everything is signaling that. And the time frame for that taking place would likely be at the end of this peak of the cycle, which would take us somewhere into 2026. And you never know how long a depression can last. But it's actually horrible for the economy and for most people. So that's why I believe in taking profits at the right time, not trading, although you can make money doing that, but I don't advise that for most people. It's a specific skill and it requires 100% commitment. But to take profits, you buy during the accumulation phase, which has been for the last 3 years, okay? And then when you see your portfolio increase substantially, you sell a portion, not all of it, but a portion, so that you take profits and make the most out of the opportunities that you've been presented with within the crypto market. That's how I see it. You have to take advantage of it because there is going to be a Great Depression coming. Things are not looking good right now in the economy. And I do advise people to really reconsider holding 100% of everything after this cycle, okay? A portion, yes, but not everything. That would be really stupid in my opinion, because this depression, you don't know how long this is going to take. You don't know what's going to happen. Go ahead, Ido.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, also any black swan events can also take a substantial devastation effect, even in the crypto world, especially for
Yeah.
Bitcoin. And that's the advantage of holding assets like XRP and XLM, where they were created specifically for liquidity crisis. Therefore, you are
Yes.
owning exactly the only assets that can actually thrive if there is a crypto crash. They can literally move in the other direction of the markets. I don't believe Cardano could do the same. I am 100% sure Ethereum is not the one that would move in the other direction in the event of a Bitcoin crash, let's say. And I think we are over 52 minutes. And well, guys, I have to take a flight in a couple of hours from now. I'll be flying to Turkey, where I will join a crypto event in Istanbul. It's called Istanbul Blockchain Week. So if anyone is in Turkey, you can hit me, can go for a coffee. Perhaps even I can invite you guys to join on the event. I will be a media partner. And I want to know from you, Vandal, if you have any final thoughts to share with our audience today. We have more than 2,000, around 2,100 people watching this live streaming now, and the numbers are increasing. So I am sure we would hit 3,000 if we continuously to go. But any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope Ido and I have possibly given you guys a different, unique perspective. We're not here to convince you of anything or make you change your minds, but we present the information as we see it. And we analyze and look at everything from a logical, zoomed out perspective. And it's just something to consider, everything we talked about. At the end of the day, we are all in this together. So I wish everyone the best.
Yeah, clear message. And me, from my side, I just want to send a special thanks for everyone, for more than 2,000 people. If you just joined and you want to watch the repetition, you can find that in our channels. Next week, we're going to have a small surprise in the turning point. There will be something new that we want to share with you, but you will know that on the next Monday. As usual, we're going to be here at the same time with David and Versen as well. And well, from my side is everything. Last message: keep your crypto safe. Cold wallets always. Don't fall for online scams. We're not gonna reach you out every day. Someone is texting me that there are fake profiles with faking trading platforms. The most crazy things you can think of. So we're not gonna reach you out. Our channels are only these ones. Check always for the verified badge, especially on X. You can actually see the blue mark. And from my side is everything. Thank you, everyone. And let me know in the comments if you want some specific topic that we can cover next Monday. So thank you, everyone, and have a great week ahead.